Hey, what's up? What is VC here coming at you with another video about anything and everything. Nothing's off the table. I'm always off the cuff to give you the insights and fascination and aspects of everything through the eyes of the villain club. And it's all about common sense, basically. I mean, it's just what it is. But let's talk about it, all right? Let's talk about how there's been things have been going on, such as this right here. Biggest thing talked about yesterday was Joy Reid getting canceled by her own network, MSNBC. And, to put it into a little mini summary here, there was a time when just timing, it's always been timing. The whole George Floyd situation kind of led to, people that probably shouldn't belong on TV come on TV, right? And to be prominent people, or supposedly prominent people. And if you ever listen to what she says, it was always a bunch of bullshit, uh, racial overtones, and everything's always about, you know, white race is bad, Hitler this, and everything was so just bad in terms of just everything just had to be, everybody's against her, everybody's against the blacks, everything. It was just everything's just so bad and racial. That's what it is, simply put. And anything outside of that, you know, you're a fascist, you're a racist, you're blah 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 blah, and it was just annoying, stupidly annoying. And what's happening in a lot of these news organizations lately, such as CNN and MSNBC, people have lost viewership, or not people, the networks. Those networks have lost viewership because people got tired of watching the bullshit over and over and over again. Problem was is that Joy Reid, I think with her, they kind of kept her on too long, knowing that she was more of a virus. That if they were to get rid of her at any given time, especially during the Biden administration, it would be you're a racist, you're a racist because I'm Joy Reid and I'm black, and you're a racist for letting me go, right? But because we're in a new presidency, a new direction, new tone of everything, ratings decline, especially because in the end, these networks have to make money, right? They're around to still make money. That's what advertisers are for and all that stuff. And if they're losing ratings because no one's watching them, they're going to lose advertisers because no one's going to be watching it. And like I was saying, like, you know, networks still got to make money. If they don't make money, they could go down, and close up shop too. So in the end, they had to shake things up because enough was enough, especially with the complete bullshit that comes out here all the time. I mean, that's what really happened here. And you could say race, you could blame all that other crap, discrimination, you could say all that crap, but in the end, it's about money. It's just like when all these stores close up in San Francisco because they're losing a lot of money from theft, right? People walking out of the store with stuff all the time, and because they're soft on crime, they can't really stop them. So what happens? They close up shop. They're not making any money. And then what happens? They get blamed. The stores get blamed for discrimination and all this other crap, because now it's creating a food desert. It's creating a place where now, the elderly can't go pick up their prescriptions because they're closed and they got to go a block, a mile away or something bullshit like that, right? But when you really think about it, again, stores got to make money, to stay in business. And if they're not making money to stay in business because all that stuff is going out the door, well then, hey, something has to be done here because they won't have a business any longer if everything keeps going out the door for free. It's the same deal here. Networks got to make money, and if they're not making money because advertisers don't want to spend on it because no one's watching the damn show because of her stupid ass bullshit, then you know why. That's why they had to cancel her. but she was just so full of shit though. Every time she spoke. All right. I mean, let's take a look over here, for example. Let me pull this right here. You know, this was actually a good summary of some of the bullshit that came out of Joy Reid here, courtesy of Gabriella Powers here. Ooh la la. Let's take a look over here.
On analysis of US politics. I mean, here she is calling Donald Trump's team a party of racists and Nazis.
Where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism, namely a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany or Franco's Spain or Mussolini's Italy, but also white-ruled South Africa before Mandela and the black majority took control, or Vladimir Putin's Russia, Viktor Orban's Hungary, or Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela today, that suppresses the rights of women and minorities, uses the military to execute the whims of a strongman dictator, and controls and suppresses the press, education, the arts, rewrites history to suit a favored and dominant racial class.
Man, I mean, couldn't have that all been the opposite? Like, everything she described was about pretty much what Democrats are, right? Let's look at what she said, right? You know, this whole Trump is Hitler type shit is stupid, all right? Yeah, he's really a dictator and he's out killing everybody, right? And then when you say that he's a fascist and, you know, this whole socialist sort of agenda, isn't that what Democrats were doing when they talked about controlling the media? Isn't that what Democrats were doing? Isn't it controlling the rights of women? Isn't that what Democrats were doing because they allowed transgender men into women's sports and transgender men, and, you know, that were, you know, going into everything women? That really tramples the rights of women, right? And you know, it's all this shit, right? Rewriting history to suit their agenda, their favor. That was all what Democrats were doing, and she was like completely telling the opposite of what was happening here, because conservatives are really not like that, which is funny.
Disgusting rhetoric was on repeat. But here's her take on Kamala Harris's election campaign, because according to Joy Reid, it was flawless.
I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. She had Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. You know, I mean, she had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Taylor Swift, she had the Swifties. She had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run
the Beehive. Bought and paid for. Like, all these people were bought and paid for because you can't get genuine support from them. You know, and so they had to be bought for that support, which is sad when you really think about it.
A better campaign in that short period of time.
And Beehive is referring to Beyonce, by the way.
I think that's still true.
The Swifties, that really moved the needle. But apparently to Joy Reid, inflation isn't something that impacts every single American. No, in fact, it's just a word that Republicans have sort of made up.
The people I ever hear use the word inflation are journalists and economists, right? So that is not part of the normal lexicon of the way people talk. So it's interesting that Republicans are doing something they don't normally do, right? Which is not use the common tongue, right? Not use just common English to sort of do on their campaigns like they're doing with crime. But what they've done is they've taught people the word inflation, right? Yeah. Most people who would have never used that word ever in their lives are using it now because they've been taught it.
Good riddance.
Wow, isn't that amazing? Yeah, because when you look at prices and why they're so high, you educate yourself. You want to know why prices are so high and why cost of living is so high. And then you find out, oh, because it's from inflation. And that inflation is what drives prices higher because, you know, for example, when you're going for this whole Green New Deal agenda and you're restricting everything in our lives that we can't do, you know, such as, for example, we could really drill for our own gas, right? Offshore, whether it's on the East Coast, West Coast, South, we have plentiful of areas to drill for gas, right? Gas and oil. But yet they restrict all that, well, under the Biden regime, we'll call it a regime because it was just an authoritarian bullshit regime that had complete control of everything in our lives. Um, we could drill everywhere, right? Even up north in Alaska, we got plentiful resources to be able to drill and sustain and maintain our own oil and gas supplies that we don't need to import it, but that's what we do. We import it, and that's why, for example, gas prices are higher compared to everywhere else. Um, when you look at different types of other things, right? When you tax the hell out of us and people can't spend because you're taxing the hell out of us, it doesn't drive the economy. So what happens? Well, if we're in a shortfall, they print money, right? And everything that they do in terms of trying to stimulate the economy, they print the money, but it's not really doing nothing because it's just really giving us, something to get by on. So that's what's going to drive prices up, because if you tax the hell out of us and you're printing money, it's not really helping us at all. It's just spending to get by, and it just keeps the prices high. You know what you do in order to stimulate an economy? Don't print money and don't tax the hell out of us, because if we have more money in our pockets at the end of the day, we'll be able to spend more, and then when we're able to spend more, wow, man, prices can really go down. It's crazy how that is. It's a win-win for everybody.
To Joy Reid and her dangerous and pathetic coverage that serves absolutely no one. As Marjorie Taylor Greene put it, it turns out that racism, lies and Trump derangement syndrome is not going to cut through in 2025. But some in Hollywood are still desperate to keep the disgusting attacks up. GOP strategist Brent Buchanan joined Power Hour for his reaction to Tom Hanks' recent skit. Hollywood celebrities still don't seem to get the MAGA movement at all. Here is Tom Hanks appearing on SNL.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff about this, but I didn't know what it was about. Like, I don't watch Saturday Night Live because I don't care, and I don't think anybody's watched Saturday Night Live in ages, because they're not funny and they're just too, how can I say, it's too somewhat progressive, too liberal. And that's why no one cares, because they're out in New York. But I've been hearing a lot of criticism with Tom Hanks' act on Saturday Night Live. So let's see what it is.
Acting to be a racist Trump supporter while wearing a MAGA hat and refusing to shake someone's hand. Just take a look.
Now, speaking of church, can I say something? If more folks went to church, we wouldn't be in this mess we're in now.
You know what? I agree with you, Doug. I'd like to shake your hand, sir. Here we go.
No.
Oh, no. Oh, no. It's just a handshake. Yeah, it's just a handshake. Yeah, all right. You're welcome at Black Jeopardy anytime.
Terrible acting, a terrible joke. When is Hollywood, the actors in Hollywood, those on the left and the far left, going to come up with some new material?
What I think is even more interesting than that is the fact that it's actually cool to be conservative now. I'm 40 years old, and when I got into politics in high school, I was the dork because the Democrats were the cool kids. And what's really funny about this...
It's true, though, because like in school, it's such an indoctrination of how, the dominant white people, they, running everything, and that minorities, if you're a minority, you're being held down. That's why we have things like affirmative action or DEI and all that, because it's supposed to help minorities and all this other stuff, right? They indoctrinate you into thinking that the white people are out to get you, the conservatives are out to get you, that you want to be Democrat because they're about all minorities and all that stuff. And I remember all that stuff growing up, and they make it look that way, but then once you become a working class person, they really don't support you like they think they make like they make you think they do, right? Like, Democrats are really not for you. They are just for themselves, and that's what you learn over time. Because again, when it comes time, they just love to make you pay for everything. They make you pay for everything for their bullshit agendas, and that's what they do then, and that's what they do now, right? Oh, why do you think they got rid of affirmative action? Because it was discrimination, right? Why do you think they got rid of DEI? Because it was discrimination again, like reverse discrimination in general for those two. That's why those are gone now, because it was still discrimination. And in the end, it's all about working hard. It's all about merit-based things, and bringing yourself up. And if you work hard to hit your goal, anything is possible. And that's what I've always gone on as I've gotten older and gotten away from school. That's what you learn. And it's like, man, I worked my ass off to buy my home. I worked my ass off to promote. I worked my ass off to get bigger and stronger, working out in the gym and all that. I don't have to rely on programs and rely on all these different things just to get me to something. I had to work my ass off to do everything. That's what merit-based is.
Skit is one. Tom Hanks is a pretty good actor, and though I hate his politics, I got to admit he makes some really good movies. Is the fact that white voters are not who elected Donald Trump. So the margin that
That's true, because what got him over the top this time was Latinos and blacks and women, simply put, because they got enough of what the Biden administration was offering and doing and all that, and it wasn't doing anything for anybody. That's why they lost the support. When you have bad leadership and people that don't really qualify to be in certain positions, like, for example, Kamala's VP. Imagine if she was president today, man, how bad things would be. Like, none of the stuff that's been happening in the last 30 days would be happening right now, right? It'll just be par for the course of what Biden was doing the whole time, but worse, right? Or if not worse, it'll still just be par for the course.
Trump got out of white voters in 2020 is exactly the same margin that he got out of white voters in 2024. It was actually Hispanic and black voters, mostly men, but it's some women too, that moved Donald Trump across the finish line. So for them to make a skit like that is so disingenuous and shows so how out of touch they are, when it was actually non-white voters who put Donald Trump in the White House.
Excellent point. I think someone needs to tell them. The problem is these celebrities do have some influence. It has dropped a lot. I don't think anyone really cares what Taylor Swift has to say about politics.
Nobody cares about what any of them has to say, because they're all bought and paid for. Oprah, Beyonce, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, you name them, right? A lot of them were bought and paid for. Roland Martin, Al Sharpton, right? They were all bought and paid for. And none of them moved the needle, because all it showed was that people saw through all that in the end.
Politics, but there are still some people out there that seem to idolize these Hollywood celebrities and believe that Donald Trump is such a danger. Here's this lefty proudly rather claiming that should rather choose violence against Trump supporters.
I woke up and chose violence against the Red Hats today. I will wake up and choose violence against the Red Hats every day.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
Think about that though. Every time there's been protest and all these things, right? When things are happening, when it comes to demonstrations and protests and all that, and it comes from the Democrats and the left, it tends to get violent, right? It always does, in some shape or form. Whether if there's no protesting violence happening in the street, they'll go and smash windows, right? And all this other stuff that goes on, which is crap, right? Under the guise of freedom of speech, right? Get out of here with that shit. And they try to break laws and all that and say it's freedom of speech because we're protesting. Come on, really? So it's shit like that, and they're the ones that get violent every time there's protesting. And that really shows when you are anti something, they get violent.
Insane. What do you make of it?
Well, that's also the party who wants to end threats to democracy by basically suspending democracy, like trying to get rid of the mayor of New York just because they don't like him. And I'll tell you a personal story is I have a fourth grade son who is very into Donald Trump, and we live in an area that Kamala Harris won at 80% of the vote.
That's true, though. They're considering removing Eric Adams because he's trying to do the right thing, but because they don't like what he's doing against their liberal agenda, they want to remove him. I mean, how whacked out is that? And he could really sue and beat that in federal courts and all that because it's bullshit.
And he wore his red MAGA hat to school the day after the inauguration. And one of his teachers said, "You have to take that off. You're not allowed to wear that in this school." And the librarian actually came to his aid and told this other teacher, "You're not allowed to tell kids what they can and can't wear in gray. You're allowed to wear that as much as you want." And to me,
I can understand, like, if it's a shirt with the weed leaf on it, because I remember going to school and, they would wear, the marijuana shirt or whatever. Yeah, of course, it's drugs, right? You can't wear that. They kick you out. But what's so negative, like, in terms of, MAGA hat, right? Just because it says "Make America Great Again," it's a symbol of Trump, and that's why you can't wear that? No. I could see if you're wearing a shirt like I said with a marijuana leaf on it, because I've known people in school before when I was a kid wearing that, and they'd be like, "Nah, you got to take that off and send that and go home and change, or stay home," because yeah, of course. I mean, there's a difference here. It's common sense, right?
Me, that one small moment shows that they're even in deep blue insanity areas like where I live, that there are folks who are starting to open up to see that the left is totally unhinged and they're complete hypocrites in what they say, like what this woman just did here in the clip.
Absolutely. Look, finally, I want to talk to you about Barron Trump, because the president of New York University's college Republicans was forced to resign for calling Barron Trump an oddity on campus. Kaya Walker told Vanity Fair that the 18-year-old just goes to class and he goes home. I think, look, it seems like a fair outcome that she was forced to resign.
I'll take the contrarian view here. And I think as Republicans, we need to lean further into free speech. And that means when we don't agree with people, that we can still say you have the right to say that, as long as it's not violence like that crazy liberal in the clip that you showed beforehand. But is that the right thing to say about the president's son? No. Was it a smart thing to say? No, it was completely stupid. But she should have the right to say that, and we shouldn't be canceling people out because they make dumb statements.
Fair enough. Brent Buchanan.
Oh, I don't even understand that one. That was just weird. Let's see here. Yeah, when it comes to these award shows, like, it's stupid. Like who watches award shows anymore? Like, no one cares. I personally never cared about award shows when it comes to awarding celebrities for some bullshit stuff, right? So you can see here, Kamala Harris NAACP participation trophy. Even Joy Reid won some sort of NAACP trophy as well, as she got canceled. And it's like, she got canceled, but it's like, you could just tell those are just awards that are just given out for attention, right? And it doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. And so, no one cares about this crap. So, like, look at this thing.
Do you get as a Hertz Gold Plus Rewards member?
You get to skip the line and go right to your car.
Great. The new GoDaddy Arrow has AI marketing tools to help
Now it's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's start, Lefties, with my favourite moment over the weekend, where President Donald Trump called out the far-left Maine governor, Janet Mills, who's refusing to abide by federal laws and protect women's sport.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, Trump passed a law about men can't be in women's sports. So that includes transgender women, right? Because they're men, essentially. Trying to make it fair for women. Because no matter what you believe and no matter what you think, it's not fair for men quote-unquote transgender men to be in women's sports. All right, so you have this pushback from the Maine governor, all right, and so let's hear what happens here.
From male bodies. Grab the popcorn and enjoy this exchange.
Is the Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
Oh, doesn't she look mad there? Imagine being so committed to allowing men to invade women's sport that you...
I'll see you in court. I'm defending men to be in women's sports. Come on now. It's like the New York governor. She's mad because the transportation secretary, Duffy, comes in, with Trump's blessing and says, hey, you know what? We're not going to allow this congestion toll to go into play. We're going to strike that thing down because it's bullshit that you're doing to the city. And so that's going to stop. And she says, I'm vowing to fight Trump because I want my congestion tax. Like, really, think about that. No one stands with these idiots, right? Governors. Even Gavin Newsom over here in California. Like, the bullshit that he spews, like, no one cares about your agendas. We just want what's right. All right,
you go to court over it, that you defy federal laws. What sort of extreme left simpleton would do something like that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's something the Maine governor prepared earlier.
You can run, but you know it's ending. At the bottom of the grave, you're digging now.
I have no words for that. Let's check in with the former Veep, the woman who was one geriatric heartbeat away from the presidency before she squandered billions to run the worst campaign possible and lose all 7 swing states. Apparently,
as Joy
being
Reid
a
says,
uniquely awful candidate entitles Kamala to some sort of a participation award. I assume this is what this is.
Chairman's award. So what was the purpose of this award for? For what? What does she really do? Because she didn't do much at all in the last 4 years. She was supposed to be the border czar, but never really went to the border until the end. And all these things that were happening on her watch, and it's like, what does she do to win an award? It doesn't make any sense.
I'll have more on that later with Josh Hammer, but I know what you'll want to hear. You want one of those inspirational Kamala speeches. The woman's oratory skills are unmatched. Drop the various accents there and actually stuck to the script.
She always does that, where she gestures with the right hand for one thing and then the left hand to the other thing in all her speeches, if you want to call it that.
That was a very un-Kamala-like performance, I've got to say. Let's go to a more typical Kamala speech. This is from last week. I know you miss her vacuous word salads. I miss them.
Because then what do we have left? And the way that I see it also is that when we think about like these moments where we see things that are being taken.
Like what?
But also let's see it as nature abhors a vacuum. So where there's a vacancy, then let's fill it.
Yes, let's do that, Kamala. Let's do that right after happy hour is finished. Now, I have some depressing news for lefties losing at fans around the world. And this segment, every single night, gets millions of views online. And regular fans would know that MSNBC anchor Joy Reid has been a rich source of material for me. But alas, today she was sacked. Where will I find content like this?
In America, there's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears. Really white tears in general, because that's what Karens are, right? They Karen out, and then as soon as they get caught, it's like, Green Waterworks. White men can get away with that too. And it has the same effect. Even as The right
How can this
tries to
bullshit
politicize the
get a
idea
show?
that masculinity is being robbed from American men by multiculturalism and wokeism. They still want to be able to have their tears.
I really do hope she's now got more time to post on social media.
She's going to fade into oblivion like Don Lemon, right? Try to revive themselves on some sort of podcast form that no one's going to care about.
Because I need that sort of content. This show doesn't put itself together. I need the lefties to lose it. And not only is Joy Reid a nasty extreme left race baiter, but she's also stupendously stupid. Just listen to this analysis, if you can call it that, of Kamala Harris's election campaign.
I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. She had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Taylor Swift, she had the Swifties, she had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run a better campaign in that short period of time. And I think that's still true.
Even the other MSNBC nincompoops looked embarrassed there. But
Yeah,
I've got to say, I'm
later.
genuinely shattered that she's been fired after.
All right, enough of that. All right, and then, when you think about it, if you have bad ratings, as what's been reported, well, that's all you can really do. You got to make some changes. So that if that's what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen. All right, last thing here. Gotta love it right here. Check this out.
Super Bowl ad, $8 million. Offshore accounts, nearly $300 million more.
Gotta love it.
The Roosevelt Hotel Migrant Intake Center is closing down. In a statement released this morning, the city says the center is no longer needed as the number of migrants entering the city has dropped drastically. Fox 5 New York's Briella Tomasetti has the story.
The Roosevelt Hotel, which served as both our asylum arrival center and the Humanitarian Emergency Response and Relief Center for nearly 2 years, will be closing.
Mayor Adams announced the news in a nearly 2-minute-long video released by City Hall. He says the Roosevelt Hotel will close its doors in the coming months, marking a significant milestone in the city's migrant crisis. The Midtown Manhattan Hotel was transformed into a migrant arrival center in May of 2023 and has since processed tens of thousands of migrants each day. But the mayor says that number has now dwindled down to the hundreds.
With the city receiving an average of 4,000 arrivals each week. Now, thanks to our policies, we're down to an average of just 350 new arrivals each week.
The site provided a variety of
big
supportive
difference.
services, including legal assistance and medical care.
And if Kamala was president, man, this thing would still be running. Thousands. Not 350 in a week, thousands in a day.
For instance, migrants who wanted to connect with family or friends elsewhere were given bus tickets out of the state. Those in need of shelter were assigned to a site and given instructions on how to apply for asylum.
Our administration has skillfully managed this crisis, which has seen over 232,000 migrants enter our city asking for shelter.
According to City Hall, there are currently fewer than 45,000 migrants in the city's care, down from a high of 69,000 in January of 2024.
Still a lot.
More than 84% of eligible adults in the city's care have applied for work authorization, allowing for the city to close all tent-based shelters by the end of this summer. Several other large sites housing more than 1,000 migrants will also close within that time frame.
We're closing 53 sites within the span of a year.
While City Hall refrained from saying how much it costs to keep the Roosevelt Hotel running, Adams was a major critic of the Biden administration's migrant response and repeatedly called on the federal government for more money. Meanwhile, city attorneys filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration on Friday after FEMA revoked more than $80 million in migrant funding, citing concerns over illegal activities at a hotel. The suit argues that the funds were previously approved and then paid out by FEMA, only to be removed from a city bank account on February 11th without notice.
Who cares? You think Kathy Hochul should be happy that this is happening, right? Closing down the shelters, less draining of the resources, all that stuff. It should be a win, but no, because her woke agenda, she wants it open, she wants it all. right? She complains about, when it comes to, and the funny thing about it was that they were at a point of telling people to go somewhere else but New York, right? And then when action is done to remove people, to take steps towards closing shelters now because no longer it's needed for illegals, now it seems like she wants it all back again. It's like, you can't have it both ways. I mean, think about it. We're having positive results here with the Trump administration, and you were telling people as of like last year to not come to New York because we're full, right? So it's just weird how that is. But anyhow, that's enough for me today. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. We'll talk more again on another one. Subscribe to the bell icon for everything we got. Rumble, YouTube. I'm on both. That way, I spread my wings, and whichever format you like better, I'm there. All right. So other than that, thanks. I'll see you next one.